as I mentioned, I think working with a publicist requires a lot of work on the producers and the people involved part. And I love having, you know, sort of an open door collaborative policy. And often I'll go to the first reading and listen to the first reading, but also talk to all the people involved and tell them about, you know, how, if they have an idea, to come to me, and, you know, we can always work through the ideas, and even if it's not the best idea, maybe I can come up with a way to get it to work for a certain journalist, or, you know, always, you know, approach me with ideas. Another thing about working with a publicist is that you want to make sure that you're always getting them what they need when they need it. So as I said, I have this document that I send them that they need to fill out. Well, I need it right away. And I need, you know, I need a JPEG of the postcard, and, you know, any sort of cast and crew information I need, you know, pretty much at the beginning, because if I send out a press release and there's a mistake on it or someone's missing from it, they're going to be missing from it the whole time. It's very hard to fix something once it's been sent out into the ether. And so, you know, proofing is very important. I think clients sometimes forget that they need to actually proof my work. You know, I'll proof it. I'll send it to my business partner, Antonio, to proof it, but I really need the clients to proof it as well. They're the ones.
They know their people, or they should, or, yeah.
I would hope they know their people and the way to spell their names, and if anyone's missing, or so many things can be wrong in a press release, so proofing is really important. Another thing about working with a publicist, and this is not the same if you're not working with a publicist, is reaching out to the press yourself. This is a very sensitive subject because often one has relationships with the press, and I always recommend that the press go through my office. And this is to both protect the client and to protect the press. Oftentimes I'll get an email that says, can I just call them myself? They always send reviewers to my show. I don't understand why they're not sending a reviewer this time. Imagine if it's that one time that the person actually wants to say to me, you know what, we're really not interested in this show. They're very comfortable to say that to me, but they might not be comfortable to say that to my client. And I need to protect both my client and my relationship with the press to allow them to be able to say that to me, and, you know, choose to or not to review a show or list a show. I mean, most of them will list it, but recently, you know, Time Out New York sent me an email that they were having trouble with their, you know, back end of their website, and that's why the shows weren't being listed. And it was so nice to be able to have that information. Now, I think that if the client had probably emailed them, it may not have been explained so easily. There would have been a defense probably from the press about them not being listed or whatnot. So instead I got like a very nice explanation of why they weren't listed and what was being changed and how they would be listed, you know, as soon as possible. So I always have a very, and every publicist I know have a very strict no contact policy. If it's your sister or it's your best friend, or there's always a exception to every rule.
Well, and also you could talk to them, and maybe that's a bonus, and use it as part of your whole campaign.
Right. I mean, I love the email from the actor in the show that's like, my roommate will review it. Don't tell anyone he's my roommate, you know, or things like that, where, you know, it's always better to use your publicist. Now, if you don't have a publicist, obviously you can contact the press yourself, but, you know, use your publicist. That's why you hired them. And I find that I get much more information from the, you know, from the journalist or the media or whoever I'm reaching out to than the client would. I had an incident a long time ago. I'm telling you some bad stories. I had an incident a long time ago where I had a playwright whose son worked at the New York Times. And she was adamant that she got a review. And she made her son like walk down the hall and like harass the editor of the theater section. And at the same time, I was working on the editor of the theater section and trying to get this review. And I found out later from another common friend that worked at the New York Times that we lost the review because the editor was so tired of being nagged about the show, and that it really wasn't worth having the editor be harassed from all different angles, including from your son, to get a review, because it can only serve to backfire. So that's another reason why I always like to have all the press go through my office, is that, you know, tag teaming can benefit and tag teaming can backfire, and each one has to be very calculated. So as long as I can discuss it with the client and we can say, okay, this is one of those instances where it makes a great idea to both call the person, or yes, have your son contact him because I can't get through to him. Those are great times that it will work. Again, like, it's all about relationships. So if you really want that Times review, I'm going to call up Scott Heller and I'm going to give him, who's the editor now. It's a different editor than before. But I'm going to give him like 10 reasons why he should come review the show. And then maybe he'll read the script and, he'll make his own decision. But let me do it so that I can do my job and really, make sure you're well represented.
Yeah, yeah.